All right, we are back for episode number 12 of the TrainX.ai podcast. And I got my jacket on. Did you notice?
I didn't notice that. I see it. I see it. You know,
This is
I I
it's the
I I
OG.
I love it, man. I know where mine is. I know we talked about wearing them. I just failed. So, but you followed through. So good
Well,
stuff.
that was like yeah, it was months ago. So yes,
Yep.
we are back with an episode today.
Yeah.
I'm actually excited. I didn't want us to get to talking about it too much so that we can have a conversation here, but I am on the Google train right now. So I'm always bringing up stuff about Google,
Choo
but
choo choo choo.
I challenge anybody to show me other things that's going on. Let me
Right.
know what else y'all want to talk about. But this is the stuff that I've been focusing on, like in my day to day. So of course, I did watch the Google Cloud Next keynotes. They just had Google Cloud Next like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um,
How
they had
was it?
keynotes. The keynotes are it was good. I mean, I personally didn't get the wow factor that I got at the last show, but I think that's only because I've been keeping up with the different like additions that they made to the platform. I did the Google for startups startup school, a Gen AI startup school earlier this year. So I was already using Vertex AI and a lot of like Gemini and had access to the Imagine image generator
Yeah.
that they have. So I already had access to a lot of stuff. So I feel like I lost the wow factor. But the main things that I was taking away, which I wanted us to talk about today. Um, I was thinking about the AI adoption wave, right? The reason why I was thinking about this is because I've always used Google as my examples over the years, even when hacking with the homies, as
Right.
to, hey, developers, if you want to get started in AI, here is kind of like the simplest, easiest way that we are already familiar with to jump in and start to understand that or incorporate it into projects, right? That's always what we've been about. So in 2020, it was the Google machine learning like crash course, and that was TensorFlow. In
Yep.
2021, it was I want to say not 2021. Okay, I'll skip that one. 2022, it was Auto ML, right? So I did the example where you could just upload images and train an image classifier with no code. That was 2022. 2023, we talked about ChatGPT, and now in 2024, you have Gemini as a model. You could literally go in and configure like very complicated training architectures. I don't
Yep.
know if you heard about like RAG, retrieval augmented generation,
Yep.
grounding the LLMs is such a big thing, right? They have all this stuff where it's like you can go from one end of the spectrum, say, hey, I want to build and train my model from the ground up. Okay, we got an AI hypercomputer for you. Then on the other end of the spectrum, it's literally like, I want to take some existing enterprise data that I already have access to. It's already in BigQuery. And they're like, oh, yeah, go ahead and ground a model. And now, use Gemini plus all your own data to have custom chatbots. And now they're talking about agents. And so I've been on a little bit of a rant, but that's pretty much like all they were throwing at us at that event. So it got me to thinking about how Google is approaching this, where they're educating a lot of people because that was a big deal to them too. They're like, we've had people do 1 million AI trainings with us. They're educating people. They're giving out cloud credits like crazy for AI, 300,000, I think. And they're actually they can back it up with the platform that services all your AI needs or whatever. At least definitely in the Gen AI space, and they've already had a lot of other ML stuff. So I just thought that was interesting, and wanted to see if you like how your thoughts are going, looking at how companies are trying to get AI into their systems, but also how some companies are also trying to drive AI adoption into enterprise, especially.
Yeah. So first of all, that's dope. I mean, you've been on a mission for a minute, man. Like every day coding, every day like looking at and focusing on that stuff. And this kind of reminds me of like the early days, right, of when like this web technology was starting to bubble up, right? So many different things are changing. So you got to be in front of it, because it will come to a point where it will become a commodity. It'll become very easy to use, very much like building a website is today. But it's just fun going through that curve. I think, I see enterprises, really just trying to figure out how can they find the right people to put in position to help them drive their generative AI goals. There's a lot of tools out there, and there's a lot of people saying they know these tools. I think that companies are just focused on a challenge with trying to figure out what have you done, and like these things are still pretty new.
Yeah.
So you have a challenge, right, of just trying to figure out, are you picking the right people? Most of the stuff I've been working on is more on the startup side, and I think the big thing you said is it's great that all these tools have made it very easy to do this. I think the key thing is to still like, how do I get the data over to these systems in order to be able to train a model and prepare to do predictions? And I think that the organization that makes it the simplest will most likely have a huge advantage over everybody else. And I think Google,
they're like, hey, we're right here. just throwing it out there. It seems like they noticed, of course, like, because we've been talking about the cloud providers, like AWS was just kind of standard, I think, and then like Microsoft, Azure, Microsoft, like you kind of, those go hand in hand if you do that type of development. But then Google was definitely sitting there in limbo. But they have such big partners and stuff like that. So it's interesting now, because I think they realized they were kind of sliding a little bit back. And so they did notably say that they are the fastest growing cloud platform right now.
Who's that? Google?
Google. Yep. Google Cloud Platform.
I can definitely see that. I mean, I definitely have seen more people jump on the GCP, which is the acronym that they use for the Google Cloud Platform. I do see a lot of people jumping on that. I mean, we got to go back to me. I go back to the origin of Google, right? Google's whole mission was to organize the world's data, right?
Yeah.
So you got to believe in some boardroom somewhere, they're like, we got to win this AI war. This whole generative AI thing, we should have.
This is literally their research. Like, at the core of LLMs is literally their research. So it's like they did. I feel like they came back out with, I don't know. I'm not on any sides, honestly, but it's just I have constantly been gravitated towards or been drawn towards Google and their services. Because they've been in this game for a while of like, hey, here is how we can make as much as we do accessible to other teams, other people, other services, and then they bake it into their platform, of course. So that's a whole nother thing. Because will people jump ship for those tools? Will they make it like multi-cloud? Will they like embrace multi-cloud approaches? I really don't know.
Yeah, I think that they're in a unique position where, so I look back at it, right? I don't know, and I wish I could be a little fly in the boardroom, right? Because if you look back where Microsoft was years ago, they were like in lead of the developer experience, right? So, and they're kind of gaining that back. I know nobody was using Visual Code. I think is that what it's called? Visual Code.
VS Code. Yeah,
VS Code. Yeah. No, nobody. I'm just starting to use it. I use the VI editor.
Well, that's not true. VS Code was very popular, but that's because VS Code was Atom before it was VS Code. That's what that's the foundation, right? And then so like you said, I forgot about that era because they acquired GitHub back then, right?
So my point being is that they went off and acquired, like they felt like they were getting out of being in the center of the developer universe. So they went and started making acquisitions, right, and get back in that universe. So I kind of feel like Google also is kind of doing the same thing. They're like, man, we need to recenter. Now they're not doing a whole bunch of acquisitions. At least I don't know. I don't think they did a lot of acquisitions in the AI space, but I think they really tapped in to their
Yeah.
space.
They tapped into the resources they already had.
Yes. And they're like, we gotta get this tight. So I applaud them for doing it. Now the problem is that they need to automate they need to monetize this. In order to monetize this,
Oh yeah, of course.
we're going to see um, a very similar behavior we saw from them with the ad business. I mean, they revolutionized the ad business, right? So that's the thing that we gotta remember that. And then I think they're gonna revolutionize how to make money from this as well. Because I look at their models, their pricing models for this, they're not bad. I think though they're trying to figure out, like everybody said, how do I keep people on my cloud? How do I keep them using my cloud since I'm doing all this R&D and investing and running Google University for free and all this stuff? How do I do that? So I do think we're going to have some situation with lock-in
Hmm.
across the different clouds. And um, I guess from a developer perspective, I mean, like I'm just trying to think if people want to run this across like Google and they want to run it across Azure for whatever reason, if it's for fault tolerance, if it's because I want to ensure I'm getting the best, whatever the best model shall win. I don't know, but like it's going to be I mean, for a developer perspective, it's a win for us, right? Because that means that we get to do development on Google Cloud, and we'll have to do something on Azure, one of the other clouds.
I
But I
don't
think
call that a win for the record.
you say what?
I don't call that a win.
Well, I say you don't say that's a win from a developer,
Not
because I mean,
not from a developer standpoint.
well,
Just because I've at least me personally, I've worked in an environment where we had to manage across clouds, and it was at least from my perspective, it was only because business wise, partnerships and things of that nature was very important. Or if you have Microsoft based tools, a lot of times it was just more straightforward to have those like hooked up to Azure. But as a developer, it's hard because it's a thousand things in the it's a thousand things to click on in that platform, and then you have to get used to using like it was a headache. I'll just that's me personally. So I'm curious to see how there are business cases for it, and companies seem to want to do it for one reason or another. Like you said, how are they going to make that part simpler? I don't know.
yeah. Well, what I meant by a win, I meant that now there's going to be more work for more developers to get into the space. Because um, you're going to need people that's going to be specialized in these different cloud platforms, because they're just too complicated, like you kind of mentioned. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? This is going to need more. You're going to need more developers to do stuff, unless they come out with some standard that allows you to move things across. If you think of what Kubernetes is, which allows you to basically deploy applications in a container across different clouds if that cloud provider supports Kubernetes. Imagine the same thing happens in this generative AI space, where now you can just drop your model from one place to another. The biggest issue, though, is going to be like, how do you move your data? That's going to be the
Yeah, are
thing.
people really moving their data? That's so what I was noticing about Google is like they're really capitalizing on the hey, you already have all your stuff in BigQuery. Like
Right.
your data is already here. Your massive enterprise scale, like everything your company has ever done is already here. So we just go ahead and make it easy and accessible for you. But like what I switched from AWS to Google just for services, I don't know. Like,
I think it'd be interesting to see, right? It'll be interesting to see how that happens. But you're right. I mean, the key thing is your data. Like, whenever you're getting a record and you're pushing it in two different places, that just means it's double storage, obviously room for error. So I don't know how do you like. I don't know how you interoperate, but people are going to. But it's the same thing we had when people start talking about like multi-cloud,
Mm-hmm.
and from just like putting your web server, some web servers or application servers in one cloud, some in another cloud. People was like, oh, this is hard, and it is still hard, but people are doing it. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But how about this? I don't. I'm trying to think. Do you think like a higher level declarative language will
Oh
make it
God.
better? Will
Oh
make it
God.
better? I,
You might. Oh, that made my head hurt. That might
Cause
be that
yeah,
might be a direction that we end up going in. I mean, because so I was also thinking about how this is abstracting our jobs as developers. And that's another thing too, why I am very to me, I don't see my job going away anytime soon. I don't see our career path going away anytime soon.
yeah,
And people keep saying AI can code. AI cannot code. Like, or maybe AI can code, but AI cannot write software systems and maintain software systems. Like, all of the most important code is private. Like, so now I'm starting to see this trend where, of course, they're abstracting certain layers away, and that's always happened over time, right? But I'm starting to wonder or hope that we can be conscious around the experience, like abstracting the experience away that it takes to be a software engineer over time as we kind of abstract stuff away, because that's kind of what they're doing with ML. You could, like I said, you can customize it. You can do everything from the ground up, but you can also just say, "Oh, I want a customer agent enable, hook it up to the database, and now it just works."
yeah. Yeah. That would be great.
It looks like it's good, right? For those of us that know how to use those type of tools, it's just like to me like Chat GPT. And you
Yeah.
can go in there, right? I'm a software engineer, I have experience, so I can go in there and I can say, hey, create me a REST endpoint for this exact schema. Like I can give
Yeah.
it all of the parameters,
You
right?
get all the context.
Because
Yeah.
of the experience that I have from
Right.
actually doing that for years. So
Right.
I'm curious. That might be off on the tangent, but that's another thing that I'm kind of trying to pay attention to is like, how does that work? Because you can see like a lot of the junior tasks kind of starting to be like, oh, well, an AI could technically handle that thing. But yeah, I don't think AI can like actually build a software system, or that we would ever want, want an AI to build an entire software system. So it's just, how are our jobs going to look different in this phase? And like you were mentioning, I think more developers should be cloud trained, and not a lot of developers are necessarily cloud trained, because that's actually, at least in my experience, that's an infrastructure team, that's a SRE team, that's a completely different team from me as a product engineer, um having to go and interact with those services and interact with that. So I wonder if, I don't know if you feel that way, where I think like cloud certs were more so like, hey, you're an infra person, that's where you should focus. And now it's kind of like, I feel like we all need to have a little bit of understanding, associate level certification or something.
Yeah, I think that the cloud is becoming one of those things is table stakes. You need to know at least how to like spin up a VM, you know, um, you know, access a service or two, uh, use that service. Like this is the basic concepts, because some concepts they're just the same, all different cloud infrastructure. They kind of all copy from each other in regards to these concepts. So I do think you need to at least have some basic understanding. Um, but I think, I'm just thinking like for these cloud providers, like how do they differentiate? I'm trying to think about
Yeah.
like what is our future going to look like? Because this wave of AI adoption will come and go,
Hmm.
and what will be the thing that we'll be left with in these cloud environments, and what does the path look like now for learning stuff? Like after generative AI, I know this is a little bit of a tangent too.
Personal learning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out like what do you do? Like now that AI can at least generate or get rid of some of the small tasks for you, what's going to be the next big wave. I mean, I think obviously robots are the big next wave.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I've
we
been
talked
thinking
about
about
that.
that. I've been talking about
Yeah,
that. Okay. I don't know, because like for me, I'm thinking about um it's like which so LLMs are really the popular thing right now, Gen AI. We're going to get agents from that, and that's going
yes,
to be interesting.
yep.
Um but then the other thing, like you said, I think robotics, like integration, like finally having smart objects, smart
Hmm.
devices, real smart devices. So even on the cloud, like IoT, they might start going towards their IoT services next. Um, Streaming data and all that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think that I think that definitely because right now, you know, we are on an AI adoption phase, and when we come out of that phase, and I think this phase is going to be probably a 5-year phase. This is not going to be a short phase that we went through with other technologies. Well, I don't know. I have to go back and look. I don't know. I have to go back and look and see how long did it take people to massively adopt like web servers and browsers. It took a little bit of time, um, but I'm just trying to think. You know, what how much do you need to know
Hmm.
about all of these different generative AI tools that we have inside of these clouds? I mean, we all know we need to understand the model. Like the people that me and you deal with, developers that are either at the beginner, intermediate, and in some experience, do they really need to understand the model per se, or can they just be users of it? So I kind of go through that in my head a little bit. It's like, how deep do you
How
go?
deep
What's
you
the
really
what's the
need to
career
go? Yeah.
path look like? You know what I mean? So, um,
I am definitely exploring that firsthand.
right.
It's interesting though, but I mean, I do believe that one of my biggest recommendations is if you are a developer and you want to use ML services, like I don't think you necessarily need to know exactly what the model, like how the model works itself. If you understand how the architecture of the system works, in which case you have, someone else is training the model and you just have to deploy it and use it. There's so many like libraries and services that kind of make even like GCP and everything. There's so much that makes that easy. So like if I just want image detection, for example, in my app, I don't really need to code an image detection app from the ground up. But then there's like the next layer of like, okay, so how do I actually maybe, do some custom training or do some fine tuning or something like that? If you want to go more into the machine learning side. And then I'm even looking now into what are those roles looking like for machine learning engineers? What kind of skills are they actually looking for you to have? There's a lot of them that are like, just have experience, which is like,
Right,
yes, yes,
right,
sure.
right, right.
Now, one thing I will absolutely say
Yeah.
is that very much like we have been able to do boot camps and things like that for folks to get into the field. Like you can train models, you can build an AI project. Like there's so many tools out there now for us as developers that without knowing all of there is to know about machine learning, if you want to get started, there's a like approachable ways to get started and a lot of learning resources. Like I talk about Google all the time because they've always educated, but like deep learning.ai, they Andrew Ng and his team are like constantly coming out with trainings. So to me, some of those platforms, I've just kind of been leaning on them because a lot of them have like deep learning has like more straightforward programs where you can say, okay, you already got Python experience, you already got, X, Y, or Z, and this is your outcome that you're looking for. You could pretty much kind of find where you fit in the stack, or how deep you want to go.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's just you got to figure out how deep you want to go, and quite
Hmm.
honestly, do you need to go that deep?
Yeah.
Like like unless you want to be an R&D researcher around LLMs. I mean, like, um, I don't know. I always just look at you know um, from a career standpoint and a project standpoint. Um, how much of this should I be really spending my time understanding versus just getting the requirements complete and done and all that good stuff. I don't know. I go back and forth. I'm still trying to figure out if because I haven't really jumped in to like doing the AI stuff every day, all day, really getting all interested in it. Because I know it's going to come to a point where it's going to be a one-liner that I'll add to my code.
No, it's probably already at that point. It's very much already at that point, actually.
But I do want to stay connected, so the whole scaling of the model is now kind of like not something that you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about, oh, well, if I send too many predictions, the system won't send you back the result, right? It's on the cloud most likely, so it scales, it handles all that. You really just need to know how to use the tool. So I'm pretty comfortable with that, but it's it's different. Like, this is the one technology where you didn't go through I guess we did. We were doing TensorFlow, we were doing Spark and all that.
Yeah,
all that stuff. We were doing it by hand, and now I guess it's now came to a point where it's like API driven and things of that nature. So I guess we've been through that curve.
Yeah, it's basically frameworks and libraries and
cloud
services. But I mean, those are specific use cases, because everything that we were doing back then was natural language, and now LLMs have taken over that space. With LLMs, the big thing is like more and more and more tokens. The more tokens, the better. I think that the next phase of LLMs definitely has to be like it's optimizing that, because that's you just throwing massive amounts of data at it just because you can. Of course, it's gonna learn how to predict everything that anybody has ever said, because yes, but that is definitely causing an energy issue. So there's talks around that and how people feel about that. There's shortages of generators, backup generators. They said like it takes like 2 years. People are on back order for like 2 years for backup generators. So that's a whole thing. Somebody just opened a data center next to a nuclear plant. Like, so that's gonna become an issue, I think, for sure, and already is. So like that needs to evolve technically. But right now, I don't know what the research is. A lot of the research is like how are things working? But also you will see people starting to say like, oh, I was able to train this data that, this model that's comparable to this other model, but significantly less data. And so that's the kind of research that I've been paying attention to, which is interesting. So I'm enjoying this process, but I'm like looking forward to what are the other areas where AI can actually make some progress. It's interesting. It's almost like you infinitely open up new tabs.
Yeah,
that's my daily life is like infinitely opening more and more tabs on my computer because I learned something new.
There it is. So no, this is a good chat around this.
You got me thinking about being able to really talk through what the tracks are starting to look like, because that was something we were thinking about even back when we first started TrainX, and we said like that somebody who actually cleans data and processes data was actually a specific role that you have. Now you have prompt engineering and stuff like that. So I feel like that's going to kind of be in the back of my head as we prepare for the next episode.
Yeah, definitely. I think that area is still going to be very important. I think data engineering, prompt engineering, still going to be super critical, because that's like it gets closer to programming with a human voice, which I think is where things are going to get to. You're going to be like, hey, I really just need a program. I need you to go out. You're not going to say I need a program. You're going to be like, I need you, computer, to go ensure the garbage is out every day, every week, Thursday at 8 a.m. And it's going to be like,
and it automatically writes a process. It writes its own process for how to do that, right? Yeah,
exactly. It'll talk to the garage. By the way, the garbage can will be on wheels. When it becomes 7:55, it will open the garage. The garbage can will roll itself out. It'll close the garage. And like that's to me, that's when I think that is the point where we get into something that massively changes people's behavior and saves them time. You know what I mean? Like, you know how many times, you know how many people like forget to take the trash out? You know how many people that have to be like, and plus it's gonna make our kids lazy because now they won't have to take the cash out to the trash out to the curb. All they gotta do is put it into the garbage can in the garage, and at that time, every Thursday, it will pick itself up and roll itself out to the curb.
Yeah, but
I
then you
think
know
that's
what you're
the
supposed to do? Then you got to do like a Star Wars, like make the kids actually service the the bots that run the house. Like now so that's abstracted away. So now you can learn firsthand how I was literally looking at some like programming kits and things like that, like robots, because I'm like, I think what you said is true. That's definitely where we are going. And I'm constantly figuring out like how do I make a hardware project?
exactly. And honestly, I mean, I don't think there's going to be robots like we saw on the Jetsons. First off, I think you're going to have small little robots, such as like I talked about, the one where you can put on your garbage can, and that robot will wake up based on whatever the house tells it to do to go do something. I don't think it's going to be like right off the gate, R2D2 up in this boy, like. but, I do think you're going to be more robots. I mean, because you still got some issues you got to solve. People live on second floors. You got to have robots that don't tip over. I mean, they have them, but they're not like they're not as consistent yet. So you go up and you hit it.
And
It'll
it's
fall
been
over.
laying down for 2 days while you was off on vacation.
It can't get up. So anyway, this is a great talk. So let's move to shameless plug. So I kind of know what's going on in your world, but you tell us what's going on.
I'm going to actually work on okay, so first and foremost, let's just throw this out there. We have MVP developer training starting on Saturday, May 4th. And then I was like, hey, would it be like a good idea to like give people who register this time around a free ticket to the conference? So we decided that we would do that. So you can actually go to artofmvpdevelopment.com and you can sign up for training, and I'm looking forward to that. And then personally, I know you're going to probably talk about the conference. Personally, let me bring my face back. Okay. Oh, we're back. I signed up for a competition called Backdrop Build, and it's basically like, hey, take 4 weeks to focus on a project or a product that you want to launch. Just build something, and then they have like a possibility to win prizes, win further funding, basically help you connect to accelerators, all this other kind of stuff. So I wanted to focus on one of my projects that's just kind of been lingering. So I figured that's the best way to get started. You and I will talk offline about some stuff I'm working on with that, but I'm excited about that. So live streams every day, and conference is right around the corner.
Right around the corner. Get your tickets if you haven't got them. hackingwiththehomies.org. So the conference is the big thing that's on my head right now. So we've incorporated this time around. First of all, the theme this year is developer to CEO. We will be announcing the keynote speaker tomorrow, Friday, right? What's that? The 27th?
The 26th.
26th tomorrow. Yep, 26th tomorrow. And so tickets will sell out quickly, so go grab them. And we've incorporated a kind of I don't know what to call it, like soft talks. I don't know. I haven't came up with a good name just yet, but we wanted to be able to have talks that will support your journey to becoming whatever you want to be around the developer space. If you're just on the verge of like becoming a developer, or you're in the middle, or you're thinking about making that leap from becoming a developer to a CEO, there's going to be talks around that. One around like how do you make your startup venture backable, which I think is a huge one. People always want to know, like, I build this thing, nobody's like beating down my door to give me money. Well, why is that? What can you do to fix that? Then we'll have a couple of talks around the UX side of things, and 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 on top of that, what to do and how to handle certain things in regards to getting hired as a technical developer as well, or a technical resource in general. So, I mean, we have a lot of different topics this time that's not just technical, but also things to support the developer as well. So I'm excited. This is kind of different for us. We typically just have hardcore developer stuff, but I think we're at a point where we need to have some things to support the developer through their journey. So I'm excited. That's May 11th.
Yeah, so it's an expansion. We have our code first talks, which are like our big talks, and then we have all these other supplemental opportunities to just really like you said, we have to dig in at the end of the day. It's way more than just our technical skills. But I'm excited just because I feel like we're still very much focusing on the developer and what the developer needs, and knowing that now a lot of us are in different phases of our career. So I can't wait.
Right.
And then it'll be nice to have that off of our plate so we can start our AI robotics lab and
there you go.
invent the future.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the Hacker House stuff is obviously going on. That once this is done, kind of be able to commit full time to that. I know I need to stop slacking, but it's just a lot going on. But once this is over, we'll be able to be full force there.
Yeah. So thank you all for participating in our episode. Feel free to follow us. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/@TrainXAI. So you can follow us over there. You can find other episodes. And if you want to get involved with the conference, hackingwiththehomies.org. You can buy a ticket now. artofmvpdevelopment.com for our MVP developer training. And we will see y'all again in the next episode.
All right. Take care.